a happy National Voter Registration Day. Many thanks to our partners for helping hundreds of organizations across the United States celebrate this holiday as we approach Election Day on November 5th, and we galvanize our communities to get to the polls. I'm so excited that you all could join us today because at SALDEF, we ushered in the SikhVOTE initiative over 10 years ago to support voter education, voter registration, and voter participation in the Sikh American community. To date, we've registered hundreds of voters in over a dozen states nationwide, most recently taking our travels to Nevada, Georgia, and New Jersey, places where we know our Sangat has grown in huge numbers and places where we know many of the campaigns are focusing their efforts to really drive up incredible turnout. We are truly everywhere, and it's so important that we exercise our right to vote, especially because it wasn't always our right. Unfortunately, campaigns already don't reach out to Sikhs enough, but they sure don't reach out to Sikh women, which is why we've been so lucky to gather today's event. I think it's our job as fellow sisters to reach out Benji to Benji and ensure that our fellow Sikh women are registered and ready to vote. And that is not just the job of women in our community, it is the job of all of us as part of our Sangat to make sure that we are all doing our part and participating in the seva of being involved locally within our communities. So we really have an exciting program for you today, where we'll be charting how many of our participants and speakers are doing really valuable work within their communities to get involved, to get the Sikh vote out. And I'm so lucky to be part of SALDEF and help initiate our SikhVOTE programming for 2024. It has been such an immense joy to speak with voters in Punjabi and in English to make sure that the information about how to vote, what the voter deadlines are, and reminding people just how meaningful it is to participate in our elections is. And I think it's been an incredible joy to work with incredible Sikh women at SALDEF as well to make this mission come to life. So with today's program, I'm really excited to be surrounded by fellow Kaurs in my community across the nation. That really makes the community feel smaller, closer, and significantly more meaningful when it comes time to vote, and reminding us that voting is not just a singular activity we do once every 4 years. It's something we want to do maybe every year, do it often, and participate with our families as well. It's a group activity and something we do because it's important to be a valued member of our civic communities. So as we get our program underway, I want to welcome Kaur, who is the co-regional lead of the South region of SALDEF's youth initiative, housed at SALDEF, called SANIC, or the Sikh American National Youth Council. Hailing from Texas, she has accomplished an impressive amount of work as a young Sikh woman, and I'll let her say more about her work. So Kush, please join us and tell us about yourself and the incredible work that you're doing.
Hi everyone, Sat Sri Akal. My name is Kaur and I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I currently serve as the Sikh American National Youth Council Chair of the South. SALDEF has provided me with the invaluable opportunity to contribute to the SikhVOTE program. When I first started my role as Southern Regional Chair, I struggled with bringing together the greater Southern Sikh youth community. I soon learned that due to the expansive nature of the South, there is not a unified Southern Sikh presence. This started my journey to conduct the first ever SikhVOTE tabling effort in Texas at my local Gurdwara in Frisco. As I set up my table outside of the entrance of the Gurdwara, I was initially met with curious glances and some hesitation. Most people I had met had not heard of SALDEF. However, as I began engaging with the Sangat, I quickly realized that the immense need for voter education and registration, especially in the South. Many people in the Sangat who were eligible to vote were not aware of how to do so, and many first-generation immigrants were also unsure of their voting process and the eligibility to vote. I found myself explaining the importance of civic engagement and contributing to the Sikh voice in the election this coming November. I remember when an elderly uncle approached my table. He had been a US citizen for over a decade, but had never voted, believing his voice wouldn't matter. After our conversation about the power of each vote and the importance of Sikh representation, he was eager to begin his voting registration process and to tell his grandchildren about our conversation. Throughout the day, I met with dozens of Sangat members and provided information to many more about upcoming elections and their voting rights. The Gurdwara community provided me with immense support. At the end of my tabling session, I met the Baiji and the head of the Gurdwara. Although he was already registered to vote, he was so inspired by the Sikh Vote initiative that he told me one of his dreams was to run for the mayor of Frisco. He told me even if he didn't win, he wanted to run so people could see Harnam Singh on the ballot, a Sikh on the ballot. This tabling event had become a catalyst for expanding Sikh Vote initiatives across Texas and the broader southern region. Since the time of my tabling, we've conducted a tabling event at the only Gurdwara in Alabama and plan on holding events throughout Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, and more. The work to increase the reach of SALDA and voter registration among the Sangat is lucrative, and not only to register our mothers, fathers, and grandparents, but to also spread the message of voting and civic engagement among the youth and women. As a part of my efforts to spread this message to the South, SANIC, also known as the Sikh American National Youth Council, and I will be hosting a webinar on September 24th titled Sikhs Voting in the South, Civic Power Building, and we will discuss the obstacles and importance of Sikh and minority voting. We have 4 panelists, including San Antonio City Councilwoman Dr. Sukh Kaur. I encourage you all to come to this event and register no matter where you live to connect with the greater SANIC community and learn more about the challenges we face voting in the South. Thank you so much to SALDA for being a trailblazer in the Sikh civic engagement arena, and thank you all for listening. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Wow, thank you so much, Kush. Oh my goodness, we've got South in the house. I'm so happy to hear that, we're taking our mission with SikhVOTE to Texas and Alabama. And I'm so happy to see that, people like you are doing incredible, incredible work, to build those strong relationships with our Gurdwara. And I think, as evidenced by Kush's words, our community wants to see themselves represented in government. It's not just about one singular vote. It's about one vote impacting an entire community. And I think that's such an inspiring account of the work it's going to take to galvanize our communities in Texas, in Alabama, and so many different corners of the United States where we have some serious work to do. So, we truly appreciate your dedication to this work, and thank you for always, always elevating SikhVOTE. What an exciting, exciting amount of work that y'all are doing. And I want to highlight what's in the chat as well. So folks who are watching from home, there's a link to register to a webinar that Kush is hosting in the South. We welcome you to join that event if you'd really like to learn more about our civic engagement opportunities in the South. Maybe you live in that region and you really want to get involved locally. So please join us at that event. With that being said, it sounds like we have our first giveaway. Some of you might have signed up because you were interested in getting a little SALDEF swag or even our grand prize. So there's a few exciting opportunities to win something. And just by attending, we're really excited to offer a few of these things to you. So with that, we're giving away our first SALDEF SikhVOTE t-shirt to, a little drum roll, to Karmpreet Kaur. Congratulations. So excited. I hope you're excited too. I'm really hyped. This is our first giveaway of the day. We'll email you a confirmation to receive your address. So if you're on, I hope you've heard this, but we're happy to follow up with you via email to get you those details. And for everyone else wondering if they're going to get something in the mail too, please stay tuned throughout this entire program. We have a few more giveaways throughout, and I hope that one of y'all will be the winners of one of our grand prizes, which is the big scooter, so that you can scoot to the polls in style, or maybe one of your family members can scoot to the polls in style. It'll be really exciting. So congratulations again, Kampreet. Also, thank you to Kush for starting off our program strong. And with that, I think we can move us to our next very exciting and empowered core who will be part of our program. So I'm really excited to welcome the first ever Sikh elected official in the state legislature ever in the entire United States. It's a huge deal for many of us who want to see more Sikhs in local government. She served as the deputy majority leader of the Washington State Senate, and maybe you've heard about some of her historic work to represent her constituents. So if we have her ready in the queue, I'd really love to welcome State Senator Manka Dhingra to share some of her words with us.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here with this group of amazing, powerful women. I cannot tell you how exciting it is. As you all heard, my name is Manka Dhingra. I am the Deputy Majority Leader of the Washington State Senate. I chair a Law and Justice Committee. I sit on Healthcare and Ways and Means. And I'll just tell you, I never thought I would ever be involved in politics. I knew I wanted to go to law school. I knew I wanted to be a prosecutor because I do a lot of work with gender-based violence. And we do know that women of color, tend to be victims of gender-based violence at a very alarming rate. And it is something most people in our society, in our community, in our state, in our country don't take as seriously as they need to. And so I spent, 20 years being a senior deputy prosecuting attorney with King County, where I worked on domestic violence, sexual assault, trafficking. I got involved in working on therapeutic alternatives to incarceration, mental health courts, veterans courts. I trained law enforcement in crisis intervention. And then I got involved in working on hate crimes after 9/11 when the Sikh cab driver was assaulted in Seattle. And so while I did all of that policy work, the thought of running for office never occurred to me. I voted, considered myself a good Democrat, and then Trump won. And when he won, I really thought long and hard about the work I had been doing, what my values were, and I was really concerned for the future of this country because we had just elected a man who brags about sexually assaulting women, a man whose rhetoric has resulted in having some of the most increases in hate crimes in our country, and a man who made fun of people with mental health issues, all the issues that I'd spent my life working on. And even then, there were two things that happened that made me decide to run for office. Because when we are growing up, I can tell you, our parents, our families aren't saying, hey, you should think about a career in politics. A lot of the stress is in becoming doctors, engineers. And I can tell you, when I wanted to go to law school, we didn't have South Asians really going to law school at that time. I actually had to help start the South Asian Bar Association in Washington because we didn't have so many lawyers. So, it is not something that we as a culture encourage civic participation in politics. And so, because of my work in hate crimes that December, I was actually invited to go to our local mosque where we had a safety forum. And I'm sitting in this room full of Muslim Americans, close to 1,000 of them. And I heard them talk about how scared they were. They didn't know whether they should buy a house, whether they should buy a car, or whether they would be allowed to live in this country. And I remember, growing up, we had instances in California where my grandfather was called a raghead, where my brother was teased in school for wearing a puggree, but we never felt like we didn't belong. And so it was really eye-opening for me to be in that room, hearing from Americans that they didn't feel like this country is a place where they could continue to live. And 2 days later, I was at the Indian Association of Western Washington's presenting at a hate crime seminar, and it was the same thing again from Indians. And this is when I decided to run for office. So my family and I decided, because it is critical that we be represented in the halls of power, that our voices, our experience, our values are taken into account when decisions have been made. And that is how I got involved in politics. And I have to say, I have seen the community come together and really make sure that they are becoming more and more active. I have seen that activism come up. But I will also say one of the other things that is true in our country, in our state, in our community is misogyny. We have seen that over and over again. And so for our national election, I am concerned that misogyny will rear its ugly head, and we cannot let it. We have to make sure we trust women, we believe women, and we are going to follow the lead of women because we know that when women are elected, they elevate everyone. We especially saw that during COVID, that countries that were led by women handled that pandemic so much better than any other country. And so as we talk about the SikhVOTE, as we talk about SALDF and the incredible work they do, it is imperative that we get every Sikh member who can be registered to vote, that we have honest conversations about what does it mean for us to elevate women, what does it mean for us to trust women, believe women, and support women, because we know that when women are elevated, they are successful. So thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this panel, and I'm very excited for this discussion.
Phenomenal, phenomenal words, Senator. Thank you so much. I think your election into office was absolutely historic and has paved the way for Kaurs to run for office and really see themselves in that light. And I think it provides a really nice thread into what Kush had mentioned, right? That we want to see ourselves in those halls of power. We want to have someone of our own represented, and that makes so much sense. I see some comments in the chat. Deshi says, 100, lean into women voting. We control the spending power in this country. And if we vote our values, things will absolutely change for the better. So happy to hear that. I see New York City and New Jersey is in the house. Definitely keep putting in the chat where you're representing, where you're from. We want to see where everyone is, joining us from. We have Inderpreet from Utah. How exciting, right? And I think, Senator, what such powerful words, especially about uplifting how gender-based violence has impacted not just the Sikh American community, but women everywhere. And we are truly lucky to have you in office. As hate violence is also plaguing our community in so many places, I think finding a place of belonging is so important to all of us. And representation is a part of finding that belonging. And I hope wherever you are in the US, you feel really fired up by her words. So Senator, thank you for being a true example of leading with your values, and we can't wait to see how you continue to serve in your communities. We are truly lucky to have you. Now, with that, I know the senator had shared about really wanting to make sure that every Sikh voter is ready to go and registered to vote. And so I think it's time for our first voter registration tip of the program. Now, I know we're all really excited about the giveaway, but this is so important because National Voter Registration Day is today. And it's really important to get all of our communities registered to vote. So one thing you really want to make sure about when you're participating and volunteering in your community is to find your local state's voter registration deadline. There isn't a set deadline nationally. Every state's Board of Elections has a specific date in mind. And this totally depends on whether you plan to vote in person, voting by mail. But when it comes to your registration, make sure that especially if you're registering to vote for the first time, maybe you're newly naturalized, you just became eligible to vote because you just turned 18, you can request a voter registration form by phone, by mail, or online. And if you don't meet the deadline to get this form in, unfortunately, you don't get to vote in November. And that's the last thing we want to happen after doing all of this work to build up this energy and excitement around this year's election. So please, I see we have New Jersey, California, Utah, New York in the chat, Maryland, Florida. I want all of y'all to make sure that you go onto your state's Board of Election website and find out when your deadlines are. Even if you're registered to vote for yourself, make sure you talk to at least 5, maybe 10 people after you leave this call about making sure that they meet that deadline. So keep that in mind and make sure you set a reminder in your calendars on when that is in your state. So with that, I think it's time for another giveaway. And if we're ready in the chat, if somebody can help me queue up who our next giveaway winner is, because we do have a number of prizes ready to go. One of them being a SALDEF SikhVOTE t-shirt. And it looks like Inderpreet Bhatti, you are our second winner. I'm so happy. I hope you're happy. I hope you're hype. Please make sure to look out for an email from the SALDEF team so we can confirm your t-shirt size, your address, and you will get that in the mail. Woo! You're in the chat. I see you. Hello, hello. Congratulations, Inderpreet. What an exciting, exciting win for you. Thank you for joining our program too. Awesome. Well, we've got 2 winners so far. We've got 1 voter registration tip. I think it's time to queue up our next speaker, who is truly an incredible trailblazer in the media world, who you might have seen on your television screen at night with your family. She is the anchor of Aj the Mudda, a program on Just TV that features the diverse stories of Sikhs non-Sikhs in the news, and so many of the incredible community work that's happening across the country. So please welcome anchor, director, and producer Ashmita Sandhu Melendez. Ashmita, I think you're muted.
Hi, everyone. SikhVOTE. So good to be here. First of all, thank you, SalDef, and to all of the attendees for taking the time out. SalDef, of course, leading the way in fostering civic engagement in our community. But I especially love that this particular program focuses on the cores, on the women, because we are such even today in this modern day and age, an underserved and underrepresented segment of the population. And for the Sikh community specifically, we are the minority within a minority. So it's so important for Sikh women to make sure that they're not just engaged in social and religious and community-based efforts, but specifically the political ones. My role as a journalist, as an anchor and producer on Just Punjabi and some of the other Just TV networks has really given me a very deep insight into some of the workings of our community, both good and bad. There's so much we have to be proud of, to showcase. But today I'm going to talk a little bit about the area where I think we have so much room for improvement, specifically when it comes to political and civic engagement. I feel so honored to be in such great company with the other panelists. State Senator Dhingra, to follow you is definitely a tall order, since you are such an important figure when it comes to women, Sikh women representation in the political sphere. I love that we're able to have in this webinar a state senator because like Jasleen even said, and Jasleen, you have experience with this, Manpreet is on the panel, she has experience with local politics, right? The presidential election gets all of the, media hype and all the mainstream headlines, but it only happens every 4 years. For folks that are listening, and especially for the people that you're gonna talk to after you watch this webinar, especially some of the elder generation, our buzurg, our uncle, auntie, and that maybe they don't see the value in voting or getting involved. The message to get to them is specifically that local politics, local elections matter, and they do happen every 2 years or every year, depending on where you live, what the election cycle is that your state, city, local jurisdiction is involved in. So when we talk about a civic engagement journey, I would like to share an anecdote that I experienced over the last few years in my role as an anchor. When I first started doing this program, the audience tended to skew a little bit on the older side, the first generation, Punjabi Sikh Americans that would tune in, and as much as we love to say as Punjabis, as Sikhs, that politics runs in our blood, that first generation that had all of that purchasing power, that had all of that influence in our houses of worship, in places of business, in their families as leaders of households, those folks, their interest in politics was solely laser focused on the politics in Punjab or the politics back home in India. And I got to see that firsthand, not just as someone who was producing this content, but as someone who is part of the production process, would go out into the communities, attend various events, Sikh Day parades, Nagar Kirtans, Yuba City Nagar Kirtan, and also interact with folks one-on-one, in their homes, in their close-knit communities. And they said, yeah, we can tell you about every election happening in Punjab, down to the sarpanch of a pind, right? But if you ask them, well, what about your city council member? Drawing a blank, right? And then you ask them, well, what are your pain points as someone who's lived in this town or this city in the United States for 10, 15, 20, 30 years? Your kids are now second and third generation. They would say, we have issues with the school system. They don't tell our history. They don't take care of our kids when they're bullied. We have issues with the roads. We have issues with safety when our Buzurg walk to the Gurdwara. There isn't proper lighting at the bus stops. You know, these really hyper local issues. And it was so incredibly frustrating for me to hear that, because on one hand, you have the power, if you only knew who your city council person was or your local state senator was, to then advocate for those issues. And so we started having these conversations on the show, and something that I love to share as, once again, a real moment of pride. You know, the audience, their viewing habits started to change. It was baby steps. At first, when I would do the show less about Punjab politics, more about American politics and the issues here, would get a lot of pushback, a lot of people saying, we're not interested, this is boring, we don't get it, what's the point? You know, we're such a small number, our vote doesn't count. And so, you know, we kept at it. And over time, the feedback started to change, right? And really the peak of this happened around COVID, around 2020. There was such a dearth of information within the community, whether it was vaccines, whether it was you know, assistance from the government, PPP loans, etc., whether it was the census, which was also running that year, participating in the census, why it was important, the distinctions that were included in the last census.
Wrap up here.
Absolutely. But folks started telling us, in terms of feedback, that some of the programming that we were putting together helped them engage more using these various things, whether it was getting involved, registering to vote, making sure they participated in the census. And I would say since then, I've just kind of continued to do more of that and have seen a great turnaround in terms of interest. But of course, the work is not done. So once again, thank you, SalDef, for doing what you're doing, and everybody else on the panel, because there's still a lot of ignorance, a lot of dearth of on why we need to engage in the political process. But everyone that's listening, go tell an uncle and auntie on why they should vote and make sure they're registered. Thank you so much.
Wow, Ashmita, thank you. What a call to action. I think we really need to hear it many times, right? And it's such an important, we're so lucky to have you as a champion in our community for so many years, being that important link, unearthing these incredible stories of our Sikh American community. And I think what I get out of your message, right, is that we're always growing, always learning, and always changing. And as families still make their way to the United States every day, adapting and finding their new communities, the newer and younger generations are making their voices and power heard, which is such an exciting message to leave us with. So with that, I'm going to move us to a little bit of an intermission, since we're about halfway through our program. Before we get to our third giveaway, I wanted to maybe screen a video that has been produced by our SalDef team that really gives you a picture of all that we've been doing with the SikhVOTE program. So I'll toss it away to our communications team to queue up this exciting video.
Casting your ballot is your right, and SalDef is here to help. Our voice, our nation, our vote. SikhVOTE.
Wow. Incredible work. I hope, you guys get a picture of just how much work we've been doing, pounding the pavement with the SikhVOTE campaign. And I think, as embodied in Ashmita ji's remarks, we have people across generations who are fired up about exercising their right to vote, pledging to vote, and making sure that they're getting out in the community. And I'm so proud that these initiatives can help reach our community at the Gurdwara, at community centers, at upcoming Nagar Kirtans, so that we can make sure that we're giving the resources in Punjabi and English. So many cheers to our team. What an exciting work we've been up to. So with that, I think some of you might be excited for this next giveaway announcement. We have another SALDEF SikhVOTE t-shirt out for our giveaway. And I want to congratulate Simran Sandhu. Hey, Simran, if you're on the call, please look out for an email so we can confirm your size and address, and look out for your t-shirt in the mail. So we've got Garnpreet, Inderpreet, and Simran, who have all won a t-shirt so far in today's program. Congratulations, y'all. Really excited. Awesome. Well, I'll move us now to maybe some more incredible Sikh women. As you know, maybe you thought we couldn't possibly have more, but we're only halfway through the program. And up next is another speaker, one who I especially look up to as a fellow Sikh woman who ran for city council in my hometown in New York. This person has united diverse Punjabi and Latino communities in California, and recently spoke on the city council floor about transnational repression, calling for federal and state accountability, something we know that is so important to our community. So please welcome Bakersfield City Councilwoman Manpreet Kaur.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. One, thank you, SALDEF, for being one of our premier Sikh organizations for decades and decades. When I first joined the Sikh organizing space with the Jakarta movement, SALDEF, Sikh Coalition, and Jakarta really were leading work that allowed for me to aspire to serve my own community. So feel extra special being in this space with a new title, a new form of seva in the company of other Sikh women who I've had the honor of meeting, the honor of working with. So I want to start by kind of painting a picture of where I'm joining you from. Bakersfield, California is seated in the heart of California. We're in the Central Valley. So this is a long valley that is the breadbasket, as some call it. It feeds and fuels California and the world, but it also mirrors a lot of the same temperature, weather, and agricultural kind of vibes of Punjab as well, and not to mention also the health and environmental inequities. So that's a little bit of where we're coming from. Bakersfield has a population of 500,000, and our region, actually, Punjabi is the third most spoken language in our region, just to kind of paint a picture of how large our community is here. And we wouldn't have known that if we didn't advocate to disaggregate some of the data from the U.S. Census Bureau with the Jakarta movement. Also work led by Kaurs, Ragini Kaur and Kamal, who went and lobbied in D.C. So I wanted to paint a picture of where we're coming from, where our community is settled. And as I reflect on my own civic engagement journey with the women who are here, one, I think Kaurs are leaders both in the home and clearly in governance as well. And that's very important because I also watched Kaurs lead within my own household, within my Gurdwara institutions. And primarily, I think of my Nani when I think of the woman in leadership. I don't know anyone who was as excited to vote as my Nani when she obtained citizenship. She raised us while my parents worked. So I owe a lot of who I am today to her. But I accompanied her to go vote at the polls when she was able to and when I was able to, and I would explain the different voter ballots and the different maybe legislation we're voting on, the people we're voting on, and definitely helped convince her at least to vote a little towards my preference. But it was more exciting to see my Nani actually be able to read her own voter information ballots when we were able to, for the first time, have ballots as well as voter information packets in all of Punjabi. And this was through, again, some of the advocacy that we did with the Jakarta movement. And I felt that was a moment that will always stand out to me because it really built on the history and the Sikh institutions that I grew up learning about, the Kaurs before me and the Kaurs that were going to come beyond me, and different institutions that we know so well that both mirror governance as well as our Sikhi, whether it's the women who institutionalized Langar, or they held the first governance positions like a Bibi Upgad Kaur, a Bibi Bimal Kaur, or the everyday leaders that we know. And it was through my organizing with Jagata where I really got to know this community here in Bakersfield and in the Central Valley, that I was positively peer pressured to run for Bakersfield City Council in 2022. And we were able to obtain the first Sikh seat here in Bakersfield. And as a young woman who grew up in a post 9/11 era, I will say, and I will join some of the women who have shared on this panel as well, you know, your name really became a trigger for racism and some of the insecurity that we feel. And so it took me a really, really long time to embrace even my full name and say it with pride. So when I meet young gods today who with their eyes beaming run up to me and share that their teachers are now asking them if they're related to me, I think that healed some of my inner childhood wounds every time I hear that. And I see them now running for student government in their elementary schools and their junior high schools, and they're elated to share this with me at every Sunday at the Gurdwara. And I feel that is the movement, and the movement is young and it's alive, and governance, having a Sikh presence in our governance at every level is absolutely necessary. Because as Senator Dhingra said, we have work to do. You know, there are real issues that are pressing within our community, both at a state level as well as at a local level. As Ashmita shared, you know, it's our bujurgs who are riding their bike down the street and, you know, they are hit by a car. They're not able to translate even to the paramedics of how severe that their injury may be. One thing I will say in being able to really mobilize a vote, at least here locally, you know, the encouragement was that you need to also tap into your power as a community. You are no longer the community of checkbooks. You can have asks of your elected officials. And that is, I think, the community power that I hope we can embrace in every community, having asks of our elected officials, having asks of us, but also others who look to now engage this ginormous voter bloc that they've realized was a sleeping giant in places like California, where our population is so large. We have yet to activate even more voters, but now as an election looms, I get two questions from our community. Appa nu fer ta nahi race ladni paini as November, and I'm like, nahi auntie ji, as wari appa nu chutti a, appa baki sare nu votaं pauniਆਂ ne. And the second is, junu vi tu kahengi ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ vote ਪਾਵਾਂਗੇ. So having that trust, knowing that your community saw you do the labor and has met you when you were registering to vote, even when you were not in office, that is also a form of building trust, and people carry that with them. So I'll close by saying that building voters is a labor. You know, you will be spending a lot of time holding their ID and, you know, filling out the registration ballot with them. And they might not know exactly where they live. And there's all of these complexities that come up, but it's well worth it when we build such a strong voter bloc that's able to elevate candidates into office, Sikh candidates who then can bring the issues that matter the most to us forward. So thank you, Salda. Thank you to the women on this panel who carry the work forward, carry the torch forward. I am just honored to be in your company. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
What heartfelt comments, Councilwoman Kaur. And I feel so lucky to even to say those words. Councilwoman Kaur, Senator Dhingra, like these are all such incredible names that I feel so lucky to speak. And I think she raised such an important point about disaggregated data, how important it is that our communities get counted so that we can get the resources and support we need to lead dignified lives. And I think I really loved hearing about your Nani Ji, who is truly a model citizen, voting for the first time. And I think throughout our time executing SikhVOTE over the years, we've heard similar stories of our Sangat who vote for the first time and see their vote as something truly meaningful and impactful. And I just can't stress enough, Bakersfield is so lucky to have you serving them. And I hope the young Kaurs and Singhs on today's call feel the same pride that you and the young women in your life do when saying their own names. And I hope we'll take the Councilwoman's call to action seriously, that we will register people in our community to vote because it's such an important duty for us to do as people in our community. So with that, I think the Councilwoman mentioned that registering our community can be hard. And there's so many different logistics that come up, whether you're newly naturalized, maybe you're a student, or maybe you moved. And so I think especially for our young people, if you are a student or you know somebody who is away for school, maybe you live in New York, but you go to school in Texas and you're not sure how you can register to vote or how the process works. If you are that student or you know someone who is, you can actually register to vote at your school address or your home state. So you have a few options here. However, you can only register to vote in one state. You cannot vote twice. What you can do, especially if you've recently removed, is request an absentee or mail ballot if you would like to vote in your home state. Typically you would request your ballot from the New York Board of Elections. And as I mentioned in the first tip, of course, this depends state by state on what your deadlines are. So it varies for each state, and you just need to make sure you check your absentee ballot request deadlines. You can have the ballot mailed to you, you can fill it out at home, and you can mail it back in a specific envelope back to your Board of Elections. So really, there is no excuse for missing out on this election. So for our young folks on this call, please share this information with your friends who are also starting school this year and who are at least 18 years old. And for maybe some of our older folks in our community, our elders who may feel apprehensive about voting in person and waiting in long lines, especially for a general election, you can remind them that they can also request a mail ballot when they register to vote, or they can vote early. So there are a number of ways to vote. No one size fits all, and I hope you'll all take advantage of these opportunities. So that being said, it is giveaway time again. And I think we do have our latest results. Anita Aurora, if you're on this call, congratulations. You win a SolveDef SikhVOTE t-shirt. I'm so happy to add you to our list of winners here. If you're in the chat, say hello. And of course, just like our other winners, please look out for an email so we can confirm your size and address, and we'll send you a shirt in the mail. Congratulations again. All right, moving us along into this program. I just feel so inspired. And if there are particular things that you're excited about in the chat, I want to hear about it. Tell us about where you're representing, what state you're representing, so that we can continue, firing up our speakers today. And I think this next leader is someone who really lives the Sikh principle of Vandshako. That giving back to our communities is how we all prosper, and that we have a duty to share our wealth and enjoy it together. So please welcome Executive Director of the Dasfund Network, Amrita Bamra.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. First, thank you so much to SolveDef for organizing this incredible event that uplifts Sikh women. Wow, I am just so inspired by the women who have spoken already. And I'm deeply honored to be a part of this conversation alongside all of them. So I'm Amrita, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of Dasfund Network. Dasfund Network is a crowdfunding platform dedicated to amplifying Sikh activism and uplifting our communities. I want to talk a little bit about my journey to becoming a nonprofit leader, which has been very deeply shaped by the values of Sikhi, including service, justice, and by my experiences growing up as a Sikh in America. Growing up, I'm sure, like many of you, I witnessed firsthand the struggles faced by many in our community, whether it was dealing with issues of safety, school bullying, or fighting for basic rights. And these experiences didn't just shape my worldview, they really ignited a passion for me to drive change. And so I always say that I am an organizer at heart, even while I'm working in the space of social impact right now. And working with grassroots communities has been an essential part of my journey. I remember the days spent working with survivors of gun violence who were advocating for legislation to protect their families, or conversations with community members fighting for more equitable public safety solutions. And I share this because these experiences have shown me just how deeply connected we are to the issues that shape our lives. It's taught me that real change doesn't come from waiting. It comes from really actively engaging with and facing the challenges that are in front of us. And through this work, working with communities, I've seen firsthand the power of collective action and how much we can achieve when we come together. And today I want to talk about the power that we have to shape the future through our vote. Voting is one of the most profound ways that we can make our voices heard and influence those issues that matter to us. And as Sikhs, we are a part of a history just woven with examples of those who stood up for justice, equality, and the rights of individuals. Our faith is built on these principles of courage and compassion. And time and again, when we look at history, our community has risen to confront oppression, to uplift those who were silenced, and to create change where it was needed. Our ancestors didn't wait for change, they made it. And today, in that same spirit, our vote is one of the most powerful tools that we have to really continue that legacy. And when we don't vote, we leave the future in the hands of others. We risk allowing decisions to be made that don't necessarily reflect our values or protect our rights that we hold dear. And so voting isn't just a right, it's our responsibility. It's our voice in shaping a future that reflects our values. And so, I encourage each of you not only to vote, but to make sure that your friends and your family and communities are informed and ready to participate. I know, Justine, after hearing you speak, I'm going to be calling my mom and dad and probably helping them receive a ballot in the mail, because I just know that's going to be the easiest way for them to make sure that their voice is heard and that they're able to vote this year. So this November, let's show up. Let's ensure that, when history looks back, it sees us really at the forefront of change. Thank you. Vaiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaiguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Amrita, thank you so much for sharing your journey of leadership with us and really creating an incredible bridge between the history of the work that came before us and what duties we have now to carry that torch and ensure that everything we do is for the collective and reminding us that we're stronger together. So I really think we should be following, in her footsteps. Call your parents, call your naniji, call everyone in your networks, your family, to make sure that they participate. And Amrita said it best, we can't leave power on the table by staying home on election day. So I'm so excited to see how all of y'all are getting to the polls. With that, I think something that would be really helpful here is thinking about even the diversity of our voting population. And I wanted to share our third voter registration tip with you all as we kind of near towards the end of our program. So if you know someone who is about to be naturalized this year, ideally before Election Day, they are eligible to vote in November. And often at your naturalization ceremony, you can fill out a voter registration form and designate your party affiliation on the same day. And many of us have family members who are awaiting their citizenship. And while it's a huge celebration, it's also an opportunity you shouldn't miss out on registering to vote. So while you can register with a party, the bonus tip is that if you register to vote with no party, you can only vote in general elections. You cannot vote in primary elections. So when you're encouraging your families to vote, SALDEF is a nonpartisan organization, so we cannot encourage you to register with a certain party. But if your families are interested in voting in both primary and general elections, you must vote for the party you registered with or change your party. So make sure you take that into consideration when you're helping your community vote. But as long as you are registered to vote this year before November, meet those state deadlines, you'll be able to participate this year. So have those conversations. Make sure you talk with your family about how they feel about particular issues, what candidates are on the ballot. Sometimes we are the best people to communicate about what these logistics look like. So I'm really excited to hear about it. So I'm really excited and fired up. We're coming up to the end of our program. I think we've had such an incredible lineup of speakers, but I think what some of you might be thinking about in the back of your minds is who won the scooter? We're talking all about getting to the polls, making sure you're getting your parents, family, friends out to the polls. But we kind of want you to scoot to the polls. I see Amrita has put in the little scooter emoji, and I'm really excited to announce a little drum roll, please. Congratulations, Surinder Singh. You won our scooter, our grand prize. How exciting. My gosh, I can't wait to see you take your scooter so you can scoot to the polls in style. Maybe we do a Punjabi style and get multiple people on the same scooter to the polls. How exciting. Congratulations. We'll be emailing you soon with all the details that we can get you your scooter in the mail, and would love to see a photo of you going to the polls too. Congratulations. Well, friends, that was our last giveaway. That was our grand prize for the electric scooter. But I do want to uplift in the chat that there is a Google form where you can track your voter registration efforts with us. So even if you didn't win something, we'd love to help you with your voter registration efforts and help the community get involved. So Surinder, I see you in the chat. Congratulations again. And what an exciting time. As we move to the close, we have just 2 more speakers ready to go. Another history maker. In fact, she is the first Sikh and Indian American woman to serve as mayor in New Jersey. And I hope we're all feeling excited about these historic firsts that are being made in the community. She's been a champion of public health and wellness and serving her community. So please, the floor is yours to the mayor of Montgomery Township, Nina Singh. Nina, we can't hear you.
You know why? Because I was muted. I'm apart. There's a couple of meetings going on, so I actually could not do the background. I'm actually in my chambers right now. So sorry about not having the background, but let me get started. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I am very grateful to Saldaf and Kiran Gill, who I know personally for many years, for this opportunity. I think, as others have said, such an important task that you all are doing, because it is so important for our community to be seen, to be heard, and it is so empowering for our next generation to see us, especially all the people on this panel. I'm very impressed with, I think there's a lot of California in the house, so I'd like to bring a little Jersey in here as well. But I think as the Sikh community, as has been mentioned before, we are known as the protectors, the warriors, the compassionate, our religion is revered. I have been, people have come up to me and said, you are a Sikh woman. And these are not Sikh people, by the way, who walk up and say, but this is what you're known for. Thank you for being here. I think when we are in leadership, we have such an opportunity to empower not just our own community, but to let others know who we are, what we stand for, because I think that helps not just us, but our kids. And that it's the reason the representation matters. I see it every day. I see it every day. I see it in the kids who come up to me in the schools, and they like, the first thing they'll say is Sat Sri Akal. And they'll say, do you know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, I know what Sat Sri Akal is. They get so excited. Oh, she knows what I'm saying. And they'll talk about Gurdwara. We don't have a robust Sikh community in Montgomery per se, but a lot of people have been moving here. And I hear that the fact that there is a Sikh woman mayor helped them make that decision as to, when community people are moving into towns where they feel that they most probably will be heard, seen. That to us as a community is a huge, huge endeavor and a huge responsibility for us. And so, when I'm talking to everybody, I'm hearing the Senator Dhingra, which I hope will become maybe the Governor Dhingra, and all of the others on this call. I think it's so important that we talk about, Seva is what we all grew up with. We all grew up in Gurdwaras, let's be honest, in the Punjabi classes. And what we've learned is what we are bringing to our elected positions, right? And I think that sort of differentiates us from everybody else. There is this feeling when people come to you, they have read about you, they've read about your religion. First of all, that itself is such a first step. I think that is so important. We need to be seen, we need to be heard. And then this whole effort that SALDAF is making for registering voters is so, so important, because sometimes in our community, and I have these conversations at gurdwaras, at community events with everybody, not with my Sikh population, but with everybody, is that if you want to make sure that people know that you exist, you need to vote. First of all, of course, some of us are not able to vote because, we are new in the country, but some people just, there's like an apathy to vote. It's like, do I really need to? Maybe I'll look at the national, and politics is all local. Politics is totally local. The schools your kids go to, the roads you drive on, the parks your kids are in, where you walk around, who you talk to, that is where you live. So I keep telling people, get involved, become a volunteer in your town. Let people see that what we bring to the Gurdwara, we can bring to the town as well. It is great that we get in the Gurdwaras. I'm 100% there. But I also feel we need to get more involved in our towns. We need to get more involved in the local, in the school boards. I think we need to do that so that people can see that this Sikh community is not bringing that kind of vibrancy and making sure our kids can see us. So to me, that is what I would like to see. This to me is the important part. If there are young people on this call, this is what I want them to do. I want them to stand up within their school, run for a class president. And kids have done it. In Montgomery, kids are doing it, and they'll come and tell me, I actually became the secretary for my class because I saw you, and if you can do it, I can do it. And that makes me feel really, really happy, because I think we can make that representation really work for them. They want to see someone. People always say you can only imagine yourself in a position that you see someone else who looks like you do it. So I think that's a responsibility on us as the leaders on this panel to reach out within our community and encourage. So for that, I know I don't want to go on for too long. It's a short program, but in my town, when I got elected, we started the Youth Leadership Council. We got over 200 votes. 200 applications. We selected about 22 kids, and they're doing a wonderful job. They are getting involved in the local government. So they're part of our committees and our commissions. For example, our planning board, they will attend a meeting, understand how a community works. How do you do a master plan? How do you plan a town? So those are things that they are learning at such a local level. That civic engagement part is what we need to bring out for our kids. And that will encourage the voting part, right? The more the kids understand. Yes, I am finishing. And the more the kids understand what we are doing, we need to make sure that then they let their parents know. So I know there was a lot of that, call your nanny, call your mom, call your this, but I just want everybody to also involve the kids. Make sure, even though they can't vote, they are a good messenger. I have eighth graders who are walking around with me, encouraging people to vote when we are canvassing. So again, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Let's keep this momentum going. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. This is what incredible words. I think you're really speaking to the multi-generational piece of our work, right? And I think it's even more inspiring that people who aren't eligible to vote yet are spreading the gospel. And I think, how inspiring it is to even just see you truly in the middle of your work advocating for your community. And I know your constituents everywhere are so inspired by you just by the way that you speak about them. Being heard and seen is so valuable. And I see the energy amongst our speakers, among people in the chat. And so just thank you again.
Thank you so much. Again, SALDAF, thank you for doing this.
Of course. And like they've all saying in the chat, getting involved at every age is so important. And before I pass it to our last speaker to close out our program, I want to congratulate again Surinder Singh, Anita Arora, Simran Sandhu, Kampreet Kaur, and Inderpreet Bhatti, all of our grand prize and regular prize winners, to our team for an exciting Sikh vote, and to all of our speakers. And so, speaking of which, last but certainly not least is someone who's come up in SALDAF's ranks from a volunteer reaching out to local Sikh American communities to becoming its top leader. And she has truly demonstrated fearlessness and grace, advocating for Sikhs at the White House, from federal agencies to the presidents themselves. So Kiran Kaur Gill, please help us close this program out. And thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jasleen, and thank you to all our speakers. I did not think I was going to get as emotional as I did throughout this presentation. I was inspired. And for those that may not know, Mayor Singh is from New Jersey. I had the privilege of growing up with her, going to Gurdwara with her, and her ascent to mayor really made us all feel, I'm sorry, I'm choking up, made us all feel that we could see ourselves in these spaces, and really, I think, inspired so many of us to be more civically engaged, as all of you, I mean, all of the panelists throughout the country, Senator Dhingra, Manpreet, Councilman Kaur, I should use the appropriate titles, Amrita, and Ashmita, all of you. It's so incredible to see you all in these spaces. And thank you, Kush, you're leading the next generation in civic engagement and advocacy. I was asked this morning, actually by a reporter, about, what are the issues that Sikh Americans care about? We're having this event, Core Power Hour. And I said, all the issues are Sikh American issues. And you've heard so many issues that we are bringing to the forefront today, that we're uplifting, that our community cares about. But our involvement, it's across the board. We've heard about roads, we've heard about schools, we've heard about issues with hate crimes, bullying, public safety. There are so many reasons to get involved. And so I encourage you, as you can see, these amazing, amazing women are leading the way. They're in the forefront. But let's support, let's be behind them. Let's make sure that we build our community power and make sure that our community has a voice. And how do we do that? We vote. It seems simple, but its impact is profound. And I encourage you to go and look up the dates for voter registration in your state. Yes, we have 50 states with different deadlines to make things slightly confusing, but you know what? Hey, we all, we have access to the internet, we have access to information. If you want, call SALDEF directly. We can help you walk through it. Amrita is putting it in the chat, so you have access there. Please, and encourage your friends, your family, other cores in your community, other things. We are stronger if we have that, the numbers come out and we have more people advocating for the issue and raising the Sikh American voice. The other thing I want to let all of you know is there are opportunities to volunteer with SALDEF SikhVOTE program. So please make sure that you contact us. Jasleen is coordinating our outreach efforts. Yes, Jasleen, as you can see, a ton of energy from Jasleen. And so we're super excited over the next, from now until election day, so about a month and a half, to really go hard and make sure that our community gets out to the polls. Lastly, I just want to say there's, not that many spaces where the perspectives and voices of cores are centered. And that's why I think today's panel is so impactful. I know we're all trying to create more spaces, and I know all the cores on this panel have been incredible in making sure that we see ourselves seen, that the voices both of cores and Singhs are uplifted. I also want to give a shout out to Mita Kaur, who recently wrote the book Cores Reimagined, that shares perspective of cores and also serves as an inspiration about different issues that we can center and that we can bring to the forefront as we mobilize to the polls. So with that, I just want to close out the program, thanking all of you for being here. Thank you to our wonderful, wonderful speakers. I'm inspired. So I'm going to go out and pick up the phone and call all the folks that I know, former New Jersey resident, now in California. So I am really excited to be voting here for the first time, getting my